is very much important, because if any organization is not following the uh, notification which has been released, because this time the notification will be released on frequency basis, maybe from the state or maybe from the central or from any local authorities. So the organization should follow those guidelines or the requirement. Second requirement is that the organization shall establish a process to communicate and monitoring the compliance requirement. This is very much important, because we have we have such guidelines which need to be followed, and we have some mechanism by which we can mitigate the risk, but the risk will be minimized or mitigated if the people or the employees will follow the things. So in that case, the supervision of any organization need, should ensure that whether those guidelines are being following or not. So there should be an ample number of communication with the particular department who is taking care of this things of COVID-19, and the compliance requirement is need to be monitored, whether it is within the organization or whether it is by any regulatory authorities. Third, the organization shall establish a process for maintaining relevant documents or record for compliance and other necessary requirement. Obviously, if anyone is maintaining the compliance or meeting the compliance, and if it has been monitored properly, so the proper documentation need to be there. So the next element is the business continuity, because after all we need to continue the business and in this risk. So the first requirement is that identify the risk and possible disruption arising out of the COVID-19 crisis and establish a process for the business continuity. That means we have to first identify the risk and the possible disruption, and accordingly we need to establish the process or the guidelines, so that ultimately the business should continue. Second point, we need to demonstrate the measure to eliminate or minimize disruption of the business, including supply chain disruptions. That means we need to demonstrate the guidelines or the mechanism to our employee, not only our employee, but also to our vendors, to our supply chains and customers, so that we can minimize the risk or the disruption. Third, we need to identify and make provisions for necessary resources to ensure business continuity. Obviously, the inventory or the provisions of resources need to be there. We have to identify those resources, like first is the PP, second is the department, as I said. So we have to have a plan to monitor these resources, and business should continue. Lastly, we need to demonstrate a process for operation clearance, for manufacturing clearance, including regulatory requirement, especially after a period of shutdown, to ensure safe operation. That means if we are reopening any manufacturing unit, we need to demonstrate the whole process or to our employee, and we need to manufacturing clearance from the regulatory authority, and after that we need to start the business. Next key element is that risk management. To manage the risk, we need to first identify the risk, and we need to demonstrate those processes to eliminate or minimize the risk within our organization, which includes employees, customers, our stakeholders, vendors, everyone. And we need to identify and establish the necessary resources for eliminating or mitigating the risk.